everyone. This is Robert Timmons of The Robert Timmons Show. Today, our guest is Greg Walker. He is an international award-winning high-impact speaker, entrepreneur, international best-selling author, business coach, certified life coach. He works with Fortune 100 companies, professional athletes, and to high school students. Greg looks to impact and inspire teams to be better than they were yesterday. His talks range from how to go from good to phenomenal and how to build a champion mindset. He is known as the Big Dreamer, and he wants the world to understand that we are all too big to dream small. It's his goal to impact and inspire every person that he comes into contact with and make the rest of their life their best life. Welcome to the show, Greg. How you doing today?
Hey, I appreciate you having me on the show, man. Listen, I woke up today, so today is the best day to be alive. And as my brother behind you, Les Brown says, if anyone doesn't think this is the best day to be alive, they should try missing one.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into this because you have some incredible experience in your toolbox, and I'd love to touch on as much as possible as we can for our listeners. So let's start with why you're named the Big Dreamer.
Well, I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, where 6 of Les's kids grew up at. Excuse me. And I'm one of 14 children, a family of drugs, prostitution, robbery. And I became the only one. I always wanted to make it out of high school because no one in my family ever made it out of the 9th grade. So people would call me a big dreamer, right? You think you're going to be the one to make it out, Greg? And actually, in my first chapter, my first page of my book talks about the principal of my high school asked me to drop out my very first day.
The principal did?
Because he knew another kid with my last name was entering the Columbus public schools, right? And I can honestly say, Robert, that I would probably agree with him too. If there's these, I'm number 13. So if there's 12 kids before that didn't make it past the 9th or 10th grade, why do I think this kid's going to make it? And as he told me when he threw the papers down, right? When all my friends said, Greg, you're going to make it out. You're not going to be like your family. I thought I never smiled as a kid. I actually didn't smile until age about 45. It was Les Brown that always told me I should smile. So I thought I was going to make it out. But I didn't want to smile, but I did. And I was thinking, okay, my friends believe in me. I played football. My coaches believe in me. And I was called into the principal's office. And he threw some papers down. And I said, what are those? And he said, those are the papers that your 12 siblings before you signed to leave out of these high schools here in Columbus. I didn't get what he was saying. So he said, these will be waiting for you. I didn't know about superstitions then. And he said, do you know 13 is not a good number? And I said, no, I don't get that. He said, well, it's not a good number. So if you think you're going to make it. So he said, whenever you're ready, Gregory, these papers are here for you. So wow. I did. I left pushing my friends into lockers. I was 6'2". My freshman year, 218 pounds. And I left there pushing people in lockers, crying. And I leave out the front door and someone grabs me. And I turn around, I just want to knock their teeth out. I really do. I was so angry. Who was this guy to judge me? And he never met me. And I turned around, I wanted to hit this person. And it was my 7th and 8th grade teacher, Mrs. Renee Rivers, who believed in me. She was the only one who believed in me. And so she asked me what I was doing. Why am I crying? Where am I going? I told her, and she grabbed my hand. And she grabbed my elbow. Now, she was probably 4'3" if she was wearing heels. She was that small. But to me, it was like Shaquille O'Neal grabbed me. Because this was a woman who believed in every child, black, white, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, whatever. And she took special attention to me for some reason. So she grabbed my elbow. I thought Shaquille O'Neal, like Shaquille O'Neal or Wilt Chamberlain, someone was grabbing my arm and just leaving. She led me down to the office and set my big butt down. And I tell people, Robert, when she went in that room, I never thought that a 4-foot whatever Christian woman could curse and scream as loud as she did. But she did that for me. And she came out and she said, boy, listen, you are not your father, you're not your brothers, you're not your sisters. If I have to hold your hand, you will make it through this high school. And I said, Miss Rivers, I said, listen, everyone says I'm a big dreamer because I one day I want to own my own business, I want to go to college, blah, blah, blah. She says, Gregory, she says, so what if you're a big dreamer? People who have big dreams can accomplish big things. Well, I didn't know that. So people laughed at me, called me a big dreamer, my family members, people in my neighborhood, because I always had hopes. So that lady used to bring people into our school to teach us how we could be successful, right, in the inner city Columbus schools. So she brought this guy in one time, and I had a chip on my shoulder. I didn't like people in the 7th, 8th grade because of my family life. And this man comes over and he's looking at me and he says, son, is there something I'm saying that's bothering you? My childhood friend Charlie always tells my nieces, and would always tell my daughter, that I remember your dad and your uncle said this. And this is what I said. We are tired of you white people coming in our school telling us how we can be something, right? And my childhood friend Charlie always says, I remember when your dad, I remember when your uncle said that. And I said, Greg, you do know you're the only white kid in the class, right? So that guy asked me, where do I think, he said, what do you think I went to college at, son? I said, I don't know. 1978 or whatever it was, I only knew football schools. I said Ohio State, Michigan, UCLA. He said, what if I told you I never went past the 10th grade? I said that I would call you a loser. You're a failure, right? And everyone started laughing. My teacher says, Gregory, you will respect this man. I said, Miss Rivers, he dropped out of 10th grade. That's my family life. She said, Gregory, you will respect this man. So this man talked about something. He worked for some guy in Indiana who wore a white suit, had a white beard, drove a white Cadillac trying to sell his chicken recipe. And I said, I've never heard of the guy. He said, yes, you have, Gregory. You have Kentucky Fried Chickens all over here in Columbus. And that man was Harlan Sanders. So he told me the whole story about their relationship. And he said he had an idea to open a hamburger store. And he says, I hear people call you the big dreamer, laugh at you all the time. And kids started laughing, my friends. And I felt so embarrassed when he said that. He says, you know, young man, I was once a big dreamer too, and people laughed at me. He said, because I don't like milkshakes. I wanted my own thick milkshake, and I wanted to start a hamburger chain. And everyone laughed at me, called me a big dreamer. They said, who's going to open up a hamburger shop when there's White Castles here in Columbus? There's McDonald's, there's In-N-Out Burger, there's all kind of places. And he says, I'm a big dreamer, just like Walt Disney, just like you are, Gregory. And he says, I had an 8-year-old daughter named Melinda Lou, who could not say, her nickname was Wendy. She would say Wenda, right? She would say Wenda. So they knew they couldn't name their hamburger joint called Wenda. So they named it Wendy's. And he said, my name is Dave Thomas, young man.
Wow.
So people called me that. He mentored us for one Saturday, and it mainly was his staff, really not him, every Saturday for once a month. And I tell people, opportunity comes to all of us, right? There was 30 kids in that class that whole year. 3 of us took the opportunities and came to every Saturday thing. And honestly, Robert, I tell people in my book, I didn't go because I really didn't know who Dave Thomas was then. They didn't have a lot of stores in 1978. And I went there because when you have 14 siblings and your parents are alcoholics or pill pushers or whatever, and you have to eat ketchup and crackers, I went every Saturday because they brought free Wendy's. That's the honest truth. I didn't realize it till I opened my 5th or 6th business before I knew what a big deal it was to have Dave Thomas. I actually have an audio recording when we talked later in his life. And he would always say this to me, did you get something out of that, Greg? Did you get something out of that? And he said, I hope so. And he wasn't really the jolly man that people thought he was. For instance, his daughter, Melinda Lou, Wendy, will tell you, their father never even knew what school they went to here in Dublin, Ohio. He couldn't name because he was always busy, always working. So that's where I got the name Big Dreamer. So my friend T. Wayne Gatewood, the builder, and every time I do a podcast or a radio show or TV show, I tell people, please look up T. Wayne Gatewood, the builder, because this is a man who turned down tons of money when he got cancer in 2007, and he reinvented himself as the builder of young black men and young black boys, because he was from the inner city like me, slow learner like me. He went to college, University of West Virginia, got the most valuable player in 1979, Peach Bowl, and he went on to work for a big company here in Columbus called Donato's Pizza. So my buddy died in 2015. We were having lunch one time, and my mother-in-law called me, and I told her things I was going to do. And she said, there you go again, Gregory. Becoming that big dreamer again. My buddy T. Wayne Gatewood said on the phone, said, Barbara, why you still keep calling Greg the big dreamer? Why you guys so cute? She says, you know, T. Wayne, he always has these big dreams. And he said, well, didn't he basically retire you and your husband? Didn't he buy everything for you? Hasn't he taken you all over the place? Yes, he has. I don't mean it in a mean way. So we got off the phone and he says, Greg, that's who you are. You are the big dreamer because you had big dreams and you accomplished. I never thought of myself that way. I just hated the name because people laughed at me. So that's how I got the name Big Dreamer. Now people all around the world know me as the Big Dreamer. Actually, when I spoke in Zambia, Africa, I have a video testimony where a lady's talking, and they all said this after I gave my talk. They said, brother, why your mother name you Big Dreamer? And I said, she didn't. She named me Greg. But that's how you know me as. And as Les said, because I asked him, I said, Les, should I let people call me the Big Dreamer? He says, do the checks cash when they sign it? I said, yes, sir. He said, let them call you Big Dreamer. Let them call you. So that's how I got the name, not in a good way. And sometimes I tell poor Les told me, great things can come out of a tragedy. So even though I was laughed at and called that, now that's what people pay me as.
Mm-hmm. No, that's
right?
Incredible. That's a great story. And I can relate to the high school stuff. I was the only one. Well, not the only one, sorry. It took me 9 years to get my high school. I grew up in a rough area, and our goal in my neighborhood was to quit school at 16. So everybody knew that at 16, you were legally allowed to quit school. Your parents didn't have to be a part of it or anything. So 16 came, I quit school. It was ingrained in me. That was the thing. And then I had to fight to get back into school because I knew I needed more because I couldn't get a job. I couldn't even wash dishes at the local McDonald's that I live right next to.
And
So
you know what's funny?
What's that?
Robbie, you know what's funny now? I have friends that have PhDs. I don't have a college degree. I dropped out my first year after playing football for 1 year at the University of Florida. I have PhD friends that can't find jobs now.
Mm-hmm. I know. It's so sad. It's sad.
So now we all know in the 80s, when I dropped out my first year, I was called a fool. You're giving up a football scholarship. How are you ever going to get, now you're going to go get a job. How are you going to do, not going to get a job, not work for a good corporation. Now we know in 2020 that college is a waste for most people. Unless you want to become a teacher, a psychologist, a judge, a lawyer, you don't need a college degree. Mm-hmm. Hell, you don't even, I have a friend named Brad Lee that dropped out, he got his GED, and his company, Lightspeed VT, I think is about ready to break $1 billion in sales.
Wow. Yeah, that's the incredible part. When you think of you learn about like Henry Ford and you learn about all these other people, they didn't have a lot of education, but
right.
they knew, they maybe not have known, but they knew consistency and desire, and pushing that kind of direction can do anything, can move walls.
Well, Robert, you think about it. I should not be doing the things that I'm doing now. I should not became the second largest Subway owner in Central Ohio. I should not have helped open with my business partners 270 taco franchises across the country. I shouldn't be a USA Today #1 best-selling author. I shouldn't, because I don't have the credentials. Heck, my niece had to teach me what a verb was when I wrote my best-selling book at age 51. I had no idea what a verb was. But when Les Brown told me to write my book, he introduced me to someone who was a ghostwriter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you have a friend that writes about ghosts? Because I had no idea.
Right.
I had no idea.
It's definitely a new world there. Yeah.
Yeah. He says, Gregory, how do you think Michael Jordan gets his stuff in Sports Illustrated? I said, he writes it and sends it to him. He says, no, that man can't write. That man can't write. Even Leslie uses ghostwriters. So I tell people, you don't have to be good at math to become a millionaire because you hire a CPA.
Right.
Right. You don't have to know what because listen, I can learn what a verb is, but do I really need to at this point? It's not a big issue for me. It's like people said, Greg, do you ever want to go back and get your college degree? I said, no, I don't. Now, if I wanted it just to have it for my own self, not to get a job or whatever, mm-hmm. I can see that's different. But I have no desire to go sit in a classroom. And you know what's changing the game now, Robert? Is what I'm doing my podcast with right now. My iPhone. Because there's a young man who I met at age 13 when I was speaking in San Francisco. He's now 18. His name is Caleb Maddox.
Mm-hmm.
His company just got valued at $30 million.
Wow.
And he never went to college. He does everything on his iPhone, his computer, right? At 13, I think Caleb's selling his book, Success Keys for Kids. I think he made $110,000 selling it door to door.
Yeah, he's got what, like eight or nine books now, I believe.
Dad on Maddox Publishing right now. So the game has changed. I'm still trying to learn technology. Like I said, I'll probably reach out to you and learn how to do my own podcast because I just don't know. But we live in a different world. Look at schools. Most school systems are saying there's no school in 2021. It's all going to be virtually. I mean, so we all have to get used to this technology thing. I'm about ready to start my own courses. I have an Impact Speaker Academy. I'm learning how to take it online because, as Les said, the average person sells, I think, 500 books in their lifetime. I sold 36,000 at $25. And what Les taught me, he says, young man, you're not selling now from Columbus, Ohio to Cleveland, Ohio. You are selling to people. He said, Gregory, where's those pictures you got that you showed me? Where are some of those pictures with your book? I said, South Korea, Africa, New Zealand, the UK, Detroit. He said, exactly. You're no longer selling across the neighborhood. You're selling across the globe. Right. And with this thing I'm on right now that we're on, it's called the iPhone, whatever, social media. Think about that. I would have had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars 20 years ago to try to get my book to sell. Right?
Yeah.
But because we have this thing called LinkedIn, Instagram, which I didn't know about 2 years ago, Facebook, I had no idea what that was. Now you can sell. You don't need a college degree. You don't. And I see people all the time, Robert, that are doctors, teachers, that have given up their careers to do online sales.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want to stay at home with their kids, right? Especially now with this COVID-19. A lot of people are saying, no, Greg, I don't know if I want to go back to my office. I think I want to do online education, whatever. So the game has changed in 2020.
Absolutely. Yeah. I believe that when they're allowed to start bringing people back, companies are going to start thinking about how much they're paying for the rent on these large buildings and stuff. There's going to be a major game changer here for sure. I absolutely agree with you there. And I love that you're blending in Les Brown. That's incredible. It's awesome that you have a relationship with him. That's, I'm sure he's influenced you in a lot of ways.
Oh, listen, he always told me that I had a gift to speak, but he says, young man, you could impact people around the world. And I told him this. We were having chicken wings. I said, Les, listen, I know you're loved. You're a father figure to me. I said, but if you think I'm a speaker, you're stupid. That's what I told him. He says, young man, watch your words. He said, I might be an old man, but I got something for you, right? So he, with him, my dentist and my wife, they told me this thing about Toastmasters. And I told my doctor first when he told me after Les. And Les Brown's mentor, Mike Williams, that he always talks about, he was his program director at WBKO. He's my mentor too. He still lives here. Him and Les talk every Sunday. So my dentist says, Greg, you should join Toastmasters like Les says. I said to my dentist, Doc, listen, I'm a type 1 diabetic. Why do you guys keep wanting me to buy this thing that makes toast, right? And he said, I had no idea what these organizations were. And I said, he laughed like you did, laughed like Les did. And he says, Greg, what do you think Toastmasters is? I said, it's a toaster. I see my grandmother have one. It's called a Toastmaster. He said, no, it's an organization that teaches leadership and they teach people how to have confidence in speaking. Because Robert, my wife who's in the other room, who I know most of my life, I did not ask her to marry me 33 years ago. Les laughs at this all the time. I just had to speak to a guy who wants me to come speak at a small company. And my wife has to tell it so much. Her sister, who's going to arrive here from Bradenton, Florida today, I gave her only sister the ring and said, can you please go ask Jan to marry me? Right? And I ran to my boy's house. That's how shy I was. I couldn't hold meetings in all my restaurants. I would hire people to speak for me. And people say, Greg, how are you so great at delegating? Because that's the one thing I try to teach business owners when I'm coaching them. I said, it just came natural to me because I didn't speak. So I had to ask people all of my life to do something. So my wife, last night I said, Jan, will you please tell him, is it true? And she laughed. She says, yes. He gave my sister Terry the ring, and she asked me to marry him. And then he ran to his friend's house. Right? So, but now I ask her at least 3 times a week, anywhere in the world, dear. I don't care about the money. Where do you want to get married? She's, Greg, the courthouse on our lunch break at $47 33 years ago is enough. That's enough for me. So I went to join Toastmasters, and Robert, I tell people, right, I'm not a religious man. I'm a Christian, right? There's a big difference. So it took me a couple years to get to Toastmasters. And when I got there, I don't like being late. I don't, because I always think people's going to laugh at me. If I'm like, I want to be the first one there, so no one gets to look at me and laugh at me, right? I can sit in the back corner or whatever. So it took me about 3 or 4 years to get there. It's a Friday. No, it's a Tuesday in August, and the meeting was starting at 5 o'clock. I get there 10 minutes before it starts. I call my wife. So when I found out, like, Les always wears suits. You always see him in his dark blue with his red tie, right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
when they all told me this, except for my wife, these are 2 men who dress up all the time. So I thought, that's not me. I wear a T-shirt and a ball cap. At the time, I was wearing button-up Hawaiian shirts and khaki shorts, right? So I pull up there. I had 10 minutes ago, and I told my wife, I'm not going, Jan. She says, Greg, please, because we have those 2 devils on our shoulders in life. One tells us that we can't do this. The other one says, Greg, you can do this. You have it. So the little devil saying, Greg, it's hot. You're sweating. You're a big dude. You're a sweater. Don't go in there. They're gonna laugh at you. So my wife said, Greg, just ask someone. So I see this first guy come in. I said, Jan, here's the first guy. Let me ask you. I got on the phone. I said, Jan, guess what? I'm not asking him, right? Because who do I think is going to that meeting? People who are dressed up. This black man who looked like President Barack Obama, but 100 pounds heavier, wearing a nice suit, carrying a briefcase. The little devil told me, Greg, you ask that man, they're going to call you a fool. They're going to laugh at you because you're dressed the way you are. So I didn't ask him. So the little angel guy kept saying, Greg, ask him. Your wife wants you to ask. Les Brown wants you to ask your dentist. So my wife says, Greg, ask someone, please. I said, okay, one more person. Lady pulls up. She gets out. I'm asking, open my door. Nope. I said, Jay, she's got a nice dress on, right? That's where she's going. So my wife's begging me to go. She really wants me to go. So she finally says, Greg, if you won't do this for you, will you please do it for me? And I said, you had to go there? She said, yes, I had to go. Because Robert, I would walk through a fire and burn my body up for my wife. She's the reason because I'm the man I am today. She's the main reason. So she begged me. So I said, okay, this is the last person, Jan. Last person. So I rolled my window down. Excuse me. I see him get out of his car. He's a bald-headed guy, and I see this strap on his eye. So I think he might have an eye patch. He has a button-up Hawaiian shirt, right, like me. He turns around. He does have a briefcase, but he has a pair of khaki shorts on, and I can see a big, giant yellow stain, like a mustard stain, right? And he's wearing flip-flops, right? So the little devil dude says, Greg, that's the dude you want to ask because you know he's not going, right? So I told my wife, I said, here's my turkey. And I had my phone and said, Jan, hold on, I'm about ready to come home. She said, just ask him. So I look up in the sky and I say to myself, God, if you want me to go to this thing called Toastmasters, if you believe that I have a voice that people want to listen to, let this joker tell me where it's at, right? My best friend, Charlie, who I told you about, that says that I was the only white kid in the class, he told me later, he said, Greg, I told you, your arms are too short to box with God. Because when I looked at this guy who I called a fool for wearing his clothes like he did like me, I said, excuse me, sir, got my wife on the line. Can you please tell me where this thing is called Toastmasters? He turned around, he had a patch on his eye, and he smiled. He says, yes, I can. My name's Charlie Ashley. I'm the oldest Toastmaster in Ohio since 1972, and I'm the president of Toastmasters. Follow me, young man.
Very cool.
I tell my wife, I said, I gotta go. And I just hung up. So I'm walking behind me, and he says, come on, young man, catch up with me. And I look up and I said, really, God? This is the dude that's leading me to speak, this guy? So I went in there, and they always ask you to, stand up a new person. And I was very nervous sitting in the back. So I said, young man, would you like to tell us who you are? I met him in the parking lot. I started talking. I didn't know how to pause or anything. And he come up and he shook my hand and smiled. And he says, young man, we only allow you 3 minutes to tell who you are. We gave you 18 minutes. He said, young man, let's save this because I think you have a lot to say. So I didn't believe what he said. Excuse me. I started entering these contests, winning all these trophies. I thought I became successful in everything because people felt sorry for me. So I came home one day with my big brass trophy, and I slammed it on my granite countertop. And my daughter looked at me. She says, Dad, what's wrong with you? I said, Amanda, I'm tired of these people giving me things in my business life and this because they feel sorry for me. And she says, Daddy, she calls me Daddy when she wants to make a point. She says, Daddy, maybe you do something well. Maybe you are a speaker. I didn't believe her. I kept winning. And so one time I was going to this one contest, and if you won, you got to go to the higher and get to the Las Vegas to the World Championship. So as a type 1 diabetic, when I get a flu or something, it's very bad. So I had the flu. So when I start something, I just have to finish it. So I went there, and let me back up a little bit. I'm into the second month, and Charlie Ashley, those Toastmaster, gets up and he says, I believe we're looking at a future world champion public speaker from Columbus, Ohio. And I definitely believe we're looking at a paid speaker one day. So I'm looking at one of my mentors, Maria Jordan Scott, who's a great orator, which I didn't know what an orator was. I thought an orator was like something on Harry Potter or something, And then I was sitting next to Harold Thomas, who was my coach for one speech only, my icebreaker. And he graduated, I think, from George Washington University, and I think Yale or something like that. So I said, hey guys, who's this guy who's Charlie's talking about, who's a great speaker? Maria looked at me, she says, Greg, he's talking about you. And I said, Harold, did he say a chicken wing eating contest? Because I've been known to put down 100 wings. I can win that. And Maria looked at me, says, Greg, you are a speaker. Whether you believe it or not, you are a speaker. I was just raw, as they said. I didn't know how to use my hands, my vocal variety. I'm very passionate when I speak. I don't write speeches. I never wrote one of my 10 speeches I write in Toastmasters. I had to apologize because I thought I was doing something wrong. I thought I was lying to them. And Charlie Ashley told me, young man, it works for you. Then I found out my big brother, Les Brown, has never written a speech in his life. We just speak from our heart. We find out how much time we have. So, excuse me, as a lot of people know me now, I was in this contest when I had the flu. I go, and Maria, who I loved, she was my teacher, Mrs. Rivers. Like, she always came to my competition smiling, and I always looked for her, and it gave me confidence. So she was there. She begged me, Greg, what's wrong with you? You look very sick. You need to go. I said, no, Maria, I got to go through this. I have to see if I can really go through this. Harold, other people said, Greg, listen, it's okay. I know you don't believe in quitting, but you need to go to the doctor now. I mean, it looked like I sat in the sauna, right? And it was 9 o'clock in the morning. So I sat there, and there were 16 speakers. So I'm sitting there just sweating. Maria's like patting my back with a towel and stuff. And I get up and I said, I'm going to leave. I gave my speech or whatever. She said, where are you going? I said, I just want to do my speech. There's no way I have a chance to even get in 8th place. She said, no, young man, you wanted to be here. You're gonna respect all these speakers, just like my teacher, Miss Rivers, would make you do. So I'm sitting there, and they called, they gave participation awards or whatever. And they said 3rd place. I get up. Maria pulls me back down. Get 2nd place. They call 1st place. I get up, and she says, Gregory, look at me. Look up front. And everyone's clapping because I took 1st place, right? So how a lot of people know me years later, since 2015, is because after I accepted my trophy, right, I threw up all over the place.
There's a story, right?
So that was the first time I went to the World Championship. 2nd year, but I conformed. I don't believe in conforming, but I thought I had to do those things that Toastmasters wanted me to do. I thought I had to wear a suit with no hat, dress shoes. So I did that. My buddy T. Wayne Gate, when he was dying of cancer, this is how I tell Robert, I tell people how you have a true friend, is when someone's dying and they call you up from their deathbed, and this is what they say to you at 4:30 in the morning. I answer the phone, hey, brother, is everything okay? He says, Greg, I'm pissed at you. I said, what? He said, I'm pissed at you. He said, all the things you've been through in your life, and you're going to make Toastmasters conform you. Now, when I say that, T. Wayne Gatewood started 8 Toastmasters clubs. He started 8, so he went against Toastmasters. He said, Greg, and I said, what's happening? Well, he saw my picture at a Marriott speaking with the suit on, doing this, smiling, and I got my hat on. I'm clean shaven, whatever. So he wouldn't come see me speak, but he died before that. So I dropped out 2016 because I was already getting paid to speak. So 2017 came around. I told my wife, said, I'm going back. She said, you're going back where? I said, I'm going back to the World Championship. It's going to be held in Vancouver, Canada. She says, Greg, I know you believe in yourself a little bit now, but you beat out 38,000 people to get there. There's people in Columbus that's been in Toastmasters 30 years, and they've never made it. You really believe you can make it there? I said, absolutely, because I'm going to listen to T. Wayne, and guess what? I'm wearing my custom Big Dreamer hat you had me made, which is red and black. Les asked me to wear a black suit with a red tie for power. And my wife had me some black and red custom Nike shoes. I'm going to wear those. I'm going to do what T. Wayne says. I'll do the suit because of Les, but I'm being my own self, right? For 3 months, people told me, Robert, and Toastmasters, they called us every day. People would call them out, and I'd say, I know where you're calling. They'd say, really? You're calling about the suit, right? They would say, Greg, they will not send you wearing a hat and tennis shoes. 20 minutes up until the competition to see if I was going to go to Vancouver. People came up to me and begged me, Greg, please take that ridiculous hat off. Take those tennis shoes off. They will not send you. But Robert, I always tell people this. Never let unqualified people qualify you.
Right.
I've never had a podcast. So who am I to tell you that you can't do a podcast when you're doing one, right? Because the 4 to 6 world champions that I reached out to, all of them, Robert, all of them said right off from the bat, do it, Greg. Wear the hat. Well, if that's you, wear the hat. If you want to wear a diaper, one guy told me, wear a diaper. because that's who you are. So I listened to them. To them. I got a standing ovation. And I don't mean to tell people that to brag, but I tell the press, like Les says, to impress them. I tell people that to press upon them, because the new world president from Sri Lanka, India was there, and I got a standing ovation. I didn't think, because I was so out of it. One of my friends who I got involved with Toastmasters, she's now one of my Impact Speaker graduates. I said they ran, it was a number 3. They said, Jeannie, wow, I thought I'd get at least 3rd place. And second, they called second place and said, Jeannie, I really thought I'd get 3rd place. They called the first one, said, Jeannie, I still can't believe I did not get 3rd place. She says, you didn't, Greg. You don't deserve those. I said, I don't deserve 3rd place. She says, look, Greg. And I turn around and they're all standing, clapping for me. And I said, what's that for? She says, Greg, you're going to Vancouver. I said, you're kidding me. She says, no, you're going. So I go up there. I get up on the podium. Now, the 2 guys that took 2nd and 3rd, one guy had been to the World Championship, I think 3 times. The other guy's been 2. I looked up to both of these guys. Right? They were my mentors. And they both, they hugged me, congratulated me. After I got off, the new president, Balraj, was his name, he shook my hand. He says, young man, I'm happy to see that you are being you. And I said, what do you mean, sir? He says, I haven't seen anybody wear a suit with tennis shoes and a hat. And Robert, this is where I knew that my buddy T. Wayne Gate was right. Because the people who do not like me wearing a hat and tennis shoes are old white women. So right before I was going on stage, this little old white woman comes, probably in her 70s. She pokes me in my chest in front of my friend and my nieces and his kids. And she pokes me in my chest and she says, I think hats are stupid with a suit. And who wears tennis shoes? Young man, don't you understand who you are representing? You were representing Toastmasters International. How dare you? So it's like the storm stopped. I couldn't hear anybody in that hotel, right? It was like deafening. And I thought, I'm looking around. I said, God, please do not let me hit this old white woman, right? Because two things are going to happen. There's going to be some teenage kid filming me and making it go viral, right? And then all of my NFL friends are going to call me and say, dude, you hit that old white woman, but she got right back up. So right after that, everything just stopped in my mind. I couldn't hear anything. And she looked at me and smiled. She's a young man. I don't like those things. But for some reason, they look good on you.
Nice.
For some reason, she said, for some reason, I got on the phone because my wife was sick. I said, baby, T. Wayne's right. I'm me. I'm just going to go up there. I'm going to rock it. I'm going to be me. I'm going to be boisterous. I'm going to be loud. I'm going to be obnoxious like I do when I speak. I'm going to be me. And when I got done, that's what the president of Balraj says. And he actually, and this is what I tell people also, are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice? Because I'll tell you the story about how I slept in my first business 3 years.
Well, here, let me just step in for a second here, because you just went on a really good storyline there, and you're showing how your self-image wasn't really where it is now, right? People are giving you stuff for your effort, your successes, but you weren't believing it. You weren't believing in yourself doing that, and you weren't accepting that the gift that they were giving you, saying, hey, you won. It was you. And you felt that it wasn't you. You felt, this isn't me. Your self-image was really bad. But now that you decided, you made that decision to go do it. You made that decision to get to that championship. You made the decision to wear that hat and wear that suit the way you wanted to, the running shoes. And you enjoyed it more because you've changed your self-image. You became a different person, and you proved to yourself you already had it, but you had to prove it to yourself with your own, choice, your decision. And, I just want the listeners to hear that, because that's what I pulled out of that story. It was incredible.
Absolutely. I had the worst self-esteem, even though I was very successful. And it was funny because Les would always tell me, I brought him here in 2015 when my Toastmaster class turned 55 years old. And when he came in here to speak, he said, I want you guys to know that you have one of the baddest, most powerful speakers other than me coming out of Columbus, Ohio. And I'm looking around like, who is this dude? And he says, it's my young mentee right there, Greg Walker. He says, this young man has a powerful story. And when he starts believing in himself, you watch. He's going to be one of the most famous Toastmasters. So now I have a picture of me speaking all around. It says, from Toastmaster to paid speaker, right? He's the reason why he made me have an Impact Speaker Academy. And this is what Les told me. I said, Les, who's going to pay me when there's people like you and Tony Robbins? Who's going to pay me? And he said, Gregory, there's 7 billion people. There's people out there who don't know me, and people don't know Tony Robbins. There's someone out there who will pay Greg Walker, the big dreamer, to speak. I didn't believe that. I met someone 2 days ago in their 60s and 70s, had no idea who Les Brown was. Here in Columbus, Ohio, had no idea. So he's absolutely right. And when he would always tell me that whenever we'd speak or have chicken wings together, he would always say, Gregory, why aren't you doing this? Because he yelled at me one time and slammed his fist down on the table. Les is a strong man, even at 75. He used to do 144 push-ups in his 60s.
Wow.
And I told him, my niece was with me. I said, Les, did you hear I got an offer to speak for $10,000 in Australia? He paused and he slammed his hand down on the desk and he says, don't you ever, Greg, don't you ever take a deal like that until you call me. Young man, you got my phone number. You call me 24/7. He says, Gregory, don't you ever leave this country for less than $25,000 paid up 30 days before. You pick the hotel. You get first class seats for you, your wife, and your nieces, and your daughter. And you stay there for a minimum of a week, even though you're going to speak for one day. He said, because you're giving up your time, it's going to take you a couple of days to rest when you go there and come back. So he taught me all those things. He got me to believe in myself. He's made tons of videos for me. I have him make things for me for my legacy. he actually called me a couple months ago and he says, Greg, when are we going to speak together there in Columbus, Ohio? He said, you and I have never spoke together in Columbus, Ohio. And I'm like, well, Les, you're the man. You just tell me when, right? Because he's yelled at me a lot of times. He says, Greg, I have a problem with you. He said, you're not getting out there in the world like you should be. This is at a time he was 73. That's what he's telling me, right? So he built that belief in me. Dave Thomas, my teacher, Mrs. Rivers, my wife, but it had to take me until age 48 and 51 to believe all those people. Steve Jobs says, the only time we should look back is connect the dots to see how far we've come. At 54 years old, Robert, I connect all kinds of dots and I can see it now. I can see it now. When I used to work a Subway, it was my third job to try to open my first Subway restaurant. I remember an old couple came in there one time and they said, yes, we need to talk to you. And I said, do I know you? They say, you're the owner, right? I was only 19, just dropped out of college. I said, no, I'm not the owner. They said, you're the manager, right? I said, no, I'm just a sandwich artist. So people would always say that to me, Robert. And now I can look back and I can see why. Because I didn't have the typical teenage mindset. I never wanted to work for someone, even though I was called a loser. Because in the 80s, you had to get a safe and secure job, right? So I had so low self-esteem. When people look at me now, you look at any of my social media, you will never, ever, Robert, see me on pictures, social media, where I'm not smiling. Because I never smiled all of my life. And it was less. When he says, young man, why don't you smile? I said, I don't know, I just don't do it. He says, no, you don't. You don't smile because you think people's going to laugh at you for whatever reason. He said, Gregory, don't you understand when people hear your story about overcoming everything and they see you smile? He says, Greg, your mess became your message, and now your message will become someone's medicine. He said, when someone hears you smile and speak, Greg, and they hear your story, they're going to say, wow, if the big dreamer can smile with all those obstacles, adversity, then maybe I can too, right? So now my self-belief is when I walk into a room, I'm no better than anybody else. I'm not smarter than anybody else, right? But I walk in with my shoulders back, my chest out, and I say, I deserve a seat in this room and at this table.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, I want to move on a little bit here. You've done some other things, and, I just want to make sure we get a few things in here. You've worked for Fortune 100 companies, professional athletes. You talk about NFL players quite a bit, in the show here today. How did you meet up with that kind of person, those kind of professionals in your venture? From what you're talking about now is the Toastmasters, having Les is an incredible gift, having him a part. And this is a painting I did here that I do. I call them painting millionaires, and Les has been one of them. Yeah. So he's already seen this, but then the COVID happened when we started talking about it. So I haven't been able to, get in touch with him since. But
brother, let me know. I'll call him today.
Yeah, call him. Let him know that when we have this out, you can share it with him. He can actually see it again. But yeah, he actually wanted to know why I painted it. Well, I absolutely love everything that he talks about, right? And I named this. You have to be hungry, right? That's the title of this.
That's his new book. Yeah.
Oh, is that his new book coming out?
Yeah, it's already out. It's already out now, and that's his main slogan. You got to be hungry. I tell people I tell people when I speak, you got to be thirsty for success. You got to be like that. You got to be like that marathon runner. When they're so thirsty, they're running those 26, 28 miles that they grab the cup. And even though they drink it, most of it just goes down their face. But they're so thirsty, they just gulp it down and throw the cup away. You got to be hungry, as Les says, and you got to be thirsty, as the big dreamer says, for success. So I love that painting. I can't believe you painted that, brother. That is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I'm on my, I got 10 going right now. I'm aiming to do 50, but yeah, Les was, he's part of my first 10. The way they say, you surround yourself by the people that you want to be, like. So I painted them. I painted the people I want to be like. I learn about them. I, listen to their videos. Everything. And to have you come on, it's almost like that vibration attracted us. You're connected with Les. And when you talked about it before the show, I thought, you know what, I'm going to put Les's painting up here because it's such a connection to who you are and how you've become, and I think it's an honor to be able to share that with you if you want to think about it that way. But let's get back to that question.
Yep.
How did you get involved in Fortune 100 companies and professional athletes?
That man right there at Toastmasters.
Is that right?
Listen, when I went to the World Championship 2017, a lady came up to me and she says, Greg, you are a phenomenal speaker. You're phenomenal. You have a phenomenal story. You need to turn that into a book. I said, yeah. My big brother, Les Brown, says I should turn into a book too. And she said, you should. People need to hear your story. So that's when I wrote my #1 USA Today Amazon best-selling book, Dream to Grow Rich, How to Dream, Grind, and Hustle Your Way to Success. So same way, people say have a big website or whatever. Listen, I got a crappy Wix website that my wife made. I've never gotten a speaking gig off my website. Les Brown gets speaking engagements from referrals, right? That's how I get all of my speaking engagements, is through referrals. I spoke at the Federal Reserve of Atlanta, Georgia last year. They heard me speak, reached out to me and asked me. So I know who the Federal Reserve is. So I called Les. I said, Les, do I need to tell these people that I don't wear a suit, that I wear a ball cap and a Dream, Grind, Hustle t-shirt? He started laughing with his laugh, and he says, boy, don't you know they know what kind of popcorn you like? They know what you do on a Saturday night, right? They probably know your lactose intolerance, Greg. He said, this ain't some local bank. This is the Federal Reserve of Atlanta, right? So I got those gigs. Same way with coaching. I never wanted to be a coach. Les said, Greg, when are you going to write a book about hiring people? I said, why would I do that? He said, you had about 20,000 employees over 33 years. You need to put what's in your head into a book. So I'm writing a book now called The Perfect Hire, which we know there's no such thing as a perfect hire. So just referrals like that. So he told me, he said, Greg, are you doing any coaching, consulting? I said, I'm a speaker now. Les, why would I do consulting and coaching? He said, once again, do you know how much money people will pay you to consult them for business? I said, it's not me, Les. He said, why? I said, because, he said, Greg, what do you think a consultant is? I said, a skinny white guy with a tight suit. He started laughing. He said, yeah, there are a lot of those. He said, Greg, what have you done all those years going in all your restaurants? And I told him, and he says, that's a consultant. You have been doing consult. He says, what have you done when you hired all those kids in the beginning when you were working in stores? He said, you were doing coaching. He says, you just overcomplicate things. So now I'm a coach, so people would hear me speak, right? So one of my friends, her son's Jay Richardson, who played for Ohio State, won a national championship, and then played in the NFL for 12 years, I think. And he played for the Oakland Raiders. So she said, Greg, would you come speak at Jay's foundation? So I did, right? I came there and spoke. They said I rocked the place. Other people saw me. Can you come speak here? Come speak here. So then one of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant's coach, there's 3 people that has 10 NBA rings. Bill Russell of the Celtics has 13. Phil Jackson, who most people know, has 11 rings. And my buddy here in Columbus, Ohio, Jim Clemens, who coached and played with Phil Jackson, has 10 rings, right? So Jim grew up here in Columbus, but he was away for 50 years. So he heard that I was speaking and stuff. Now he heard I had a book. And since his NBA career and coaching and stuff is over, it'll be 71 in September. He says, Greg, would you coach me on how to get booked and paid to speak? So we were sitting down. I asked his wife, I said, Cheryl, if I help your husband, am I allowed to say I'm coaching him? She says, Greg, you're going to spend a lot of time with my husband, right? I said, yeah. She said, you've already spent a lot of time. She says, yes, you're coaching. I said, but who am I to coach him? He has 10 NBA rings with Michael and Kobe and Shaq. She rubbed my arm and she says, Greg, my husband doesn't need advice on basketball. He already has it. He needs your help in that. So he wrote me a great testimony. He wrote on the back of my book. He said, Greg will get you to dream, grind, and hustle. Like guys I played with, like Wilt Chamberlain, where he won his first NBA championship as a player. Says Greg will get you to dream, grind, and hustle. Like guys I coached, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, right? So that's how I started coaching him. So other people see me coaching him. Other people ask. Someone in the restaurant business said, Greg, I heard that you're doing coaching now. I said, yeah, I am. Could you help me do this in my restaurant? So I do. So now I charge people $20,000 for consulting if they want to open up a restaurant or a business. And there's another time when Les yelled at me because he said, okay, you start your coaching. I said, yep. He said, how much you getting? I said, $97. He started laughing. I said, what's funny? He says, boy, you really think all the obstacles you've overcome and you succeeded greatly, Greg, you really think that's all you're worth is $97? I said, well, I just see everyone doing it, $97. He said, really? So he said, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to take your fee way up. And I said, Les, I know people pay me to speak now, but no one's going to pay me $20,000 to help them open up with the business. I have people now say, Greg, when we fly you out to California, whatever, does that 20 grand, does that include the hotel, the plane ride and everything? And when I first said it, I could not say no. So I put myself on speakerphone because my wife is she's my manager of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, could you please say that again? And he said, him and his wife, our 20,000 feet, does that include airfare and hotel? And my wife goes, and I said, no, it doesn't. They said, oh, cool. Okay. We just wanted to let you know. We just wanted to find out. So we'll be writing a check, right? So that got me. Once again, I'd have my wife to look at, someone to reaffirm, right, what everyone told me. So now when people call me and ask me that, I say, no, it doesn't include it. And now I learned it. So Les taught me to take my fee up. That's why I hate when people say, Robert, this is why I hate people doing social media. Like I said, I'm not smart at all. If I said, Robert, I'm going to sell you my 1997 and a half Lamborghini Diablo, right? Which is a rare because they made a 97 and a half on the title. Now I paid $225 for it, but I'm going to give it to you for $17,000. What do you think about that car?
What's wrong with it?
It's either right. It's either stolen or there's no engine in it. So when I see these people out there putting their prices, it's regular $20,000. But if you get it today, I'm going to mark it down to $27. That's right, 20. I'm thinking, you're charging that much, and you can give it to me for $27? Really? Why do I want to buy your product? So Les said, young man, you were not born with a Kmart sticker on your bottom. If people don't want to pay you, he said, if people don't want to pay you, that's okay. They're just not your people. Right? He said, like, for instance, I won't go out and buy a $10,000 handbag or a Rolex watch. He says, I got my Mickey Mouse watch because Les loves Mickey Mouse. He says, that's okay. Rolex knows I'm not their customer, right? So I tell people, don't get mad if someone says your price is too high. Just say, okay, can you give me feedback on why you think it's so high? And some people they don't want to pay for anything, right?
Yeah.
That's why some people will never go anywhere else but Kmart or Walmart. And it doesn't mean they're bad. It just means you're not there. The people who shop at Saks Fifth Avenue are probably not going, or Nordstrom, they're probably not going to Walmart, and vice versa. So Les has guided me. So all of my stuff has just been, like you said, it's like dominoes. I joined Toastmasters, and one domino fell, and I meet all these people, and for instance, let me give you a quick story, how you say this stuff was lining up. There's a reason why you and I met. So I'm at a Sam's Club, my niece and I, we're shopping. And I always say this when I walk up to anybody. If you're a clerk, I say, what's up, young rock star? Right? Because I try to change their thinking, their mindset. And this young black girl turns around, her name is Yaya. She says, thank you, I needed that. She said, because it's been a rough day today. There's my niece right there, Savannah. Say hello, Savannah. She loves Les loves her. Les loves her. Savannah, shut my door, please. Yeah, Les loves her, my other niece. So I met this young black girl with Savannah, and she's just saying, you made my day, sir, because it's been a horrible day. I said, no, change your mindset. It's been a bad couple moments, not a bad day, because you woke up today and you have a job and you have pretty teeth, right? She said, wow. She says, thank you. So we're talking, and everyone I meet, Robert, I ask them, what are your dreams? What are they? And Robert, this is what she says, and my niece almost spit out her icy that she was drinking. She said, well, I went to college at University of Kentucky, and she said, I had my mask on, right? And she says, I heard this guy speak, and he was called the Big Dreamer. I had my mask on, right? And I'm in my scooter because I'm in a wheelchair. And she says, I want to become a motivational speaker. And my niece almost spits her stuff out. She says, I heard this guy called the Big Dreamer. And I said, tell me more. Well, he impacted me. He doesn't have a college degree like I do. I had my first event because of him, and I want to be a motivational speaker. So what I do, I take off my mask, And I say, I'm sorry, Robert. I say, do I look familiar? And she's like, a little bit. So my niece said, Uncle, show her a picture of you speaking. She says, you speak? I said, yeah. So I showed her my book of me speaking. She says, oh my God, are you the big dreamer from Ohio? I said, yep, from right here where you're checking me out at. So didn't all that stuff line up?
Yeah.
I asked her, what does she want to be? And she saw this dorky fat guy called the big dreamer speak at University of Kentucky. Now tell me, that's not a coincidence.
No, it definitely isn't.
As Les said one time, someone said, Greg, isn't it a coincidence that all this great stuff happened? You met all these famous people, stuff like that. And Les looked at that person and says, young man, a coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. So it's not a coincidence. And he's got me to believe that. So now, Yaya, her real name is Yamea. We're connected on Instagram. And I said, young lady, take my number. And I said, please call me. I said, Savannah, tell her, I don't give my number to people unless I want them to call me, right? I said, because I'm going to teach you how to get a TED Talk, because that's what I do. I teach people how easy it is to get a TED. It took me 5 years, but I got the 4th largest TED Talk in America.
Nice.
And I found out how I could teach people in 5 minutes how to get a TED Talk. I include that in my Impact Speaker course, but I teach certain people who I really believe in, and people who I know is not going to sell it for a $27 or $99 course. Right. I give it to people because I want to give it to people to help them, not to make them more money. So I gave her my number. She says, we talked for about an hour and a half. She clocked out about an hour and a half. And she said, I can't believe this is happening. I said, I can. I wouldn't have believed this 5 years ago, but I believe it all lines up for a reason. Because what if I wouldn't have said, what's happening, Rockstar? If I would not have said that, the conversation. So as Les always says, we have to use our voice. And he says, as soon as you open your mouth, it tells the world who you are.
Right.
So I'm not the quiet Greg Walker anymore, right? I am the big dreamer. That's me. And I show it. I show my confidence. One guy said to me, dude, you seem awfully cocky. I said, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I had low self-esteem all of my life till age 49, and I'm not cocky. I can show you the social proof.
Right.
That things that I've done. Cocky is telling what you've done, but you have no proof of what you're like. All these people selling these guru packages, how to make 7 figures in 12 months, but they have nothing to show for it. There's people that says that they're best-selling authors all around the world, but there's nothing to show for it. Right?
So I wouldn't say cocky either. I would say you're enjoying life now.
Oh, I enjoy life.
You've taken down so many walls. Yeah, you've taken down so many walls, and now the real person's coming out. Right?
Yeah. And listen, people ask me, Greg, why did you have an amputation in 2017? Why did you have 13 operations? I have 1 more to go. I've been in this wheelchair since 2017, August, going almost 3 years. Remember I talked to you about sacrificing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I knew I made it to Vancouver, Canada for the World Championship public speaking, I'm a type 1 diabetic. I was walking 8 miles a day at 6 a.m. I live out in the country now, 20 minutes outside Columbus. And I hated cornfields. So I'm doing Facebook Lives every morning, 7 days a week, saying, look at these beautiful cornfields. I didn't think I'd like it out here. I'm getting my health in order, right? My breathing, because I have asthma. Well, I get home, and I had an amputation on my right foot of my pinky 5 years before. I know I'm supposed to look at my feet every day of my life, but I wasn't. So I took my shoe and sock off, and my wife and my nieces, my wife just starts crying. And I said, what? She says, Greg, we have to go to emergency room right now because I had a blister on the bottom of my foot, about the size of your hand. I go to my doctor, and he says, oh, Greg, it's just superficial. So I got that sore. I said, what's superficial? He says, it just means you got a blister on it. I said, cool. And he said, but Greg, I can't let you go to Vancouver. I said, what are you talking about? He said, because if this gets infected, Greg, it could cost you your leg and your life very quickly. So I said, Doc, you know my story, right? I said, I'm the first guy to represent Columbus in 91 years for the World Championship. I don't have another 90 years to go. He said, that's what I thought you were going to say. He said, so let me put a boot on your leg. When you're done speaking, please rest. Well, I believe when you're in Rome, be a Roman. I used to wear a Fitbit that took 10,000 steps a day. My buddy Mark Menard went with me, who has one of the top podcasts in the world, Elevating Beyond. My wife couldn't go. My nieces couldn't go. So he went. So instead of averaging 10,000 steps, we averaged 59,000 steps. Well, guess
Wow.
what? My foot got infected. I went to speak with Les Brown in New York City with my niece. I went to Detroit, went to LA 5 times. It got more infected. Finally, I had 106-degree temperature, and I had my first amputation. They took off 49% of my left foot. But you know what? I'm happy because anytime I start to whine, I can look that I'm the only person from Columbus at 91 years, 38,000 people. I'll be sitting on my rocking chair with you, and there's 2 things we will say, Robert. Either I wish or I did. I will say I did.
Absolutely.
That's the sacrifice.
Greg, you shared some amazing things today, and I absolutely enjoyed all the stories, watching, really feeling you as you progressed, the lessons we've learned from everything that you've, talked about, the connection of Les Brown with you in your life. It's been fascinating, to say the least. And I want everybody to, share this story of Greg Walker to, anybody that, feels the inspiration, that is a rock star, like Greg says. But also, touch base and make sure you follow the Robert Timmons Show, and you can see amazing people like Greg come onto the show and learn some great information, some amazing value. And I want to thank you, Greg, for being here today.
Well, you're welcome, Robert. Can I say one last thing?
Absolutely.
I want to tell everyone, and I tell this to all my speakers that come my Impact Speaker Academy, and I say this. One of my quotes is, when you keep saying, I'll wait for the right time, I'll wait till I get older, I'll wait till I get married, I'll wait till I have money. When you keep saying I'll wait for the right time, someone less qualified, AKA the big dreamer, is saying, I'll do it today. Because I was never ready when I did anything. When I got married, when I started speaking, my restaurants, my book, I wasn't ready. My Impact Speaker Academy, I went along as I was doing it. And I had 29 people in my first academy, 30-something seconds. Because as Les Brown taught me, and all of you listening, listen to this advice from Les Brown. He says, anything worth doing is worth doing badly at first until you get it right. So stop waiting. Time is passing you by. You don't have all the time in the world. Someone right now is going to be gone, right? And I tell people all the time, there's 2 babies being born right now, 2 boys, 2 girls. One will get a job. The other one will give that person a job. Why can't you be the person who gives someone a job? It's your limiting beliefs. And if you believe, as Les taught me, if anyone who looks like you has something, know that you can have it too, because they look like you and they've done it. So please, tell yourself that you are worthy every day, and tell people, if it can be, why not me? That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate all that. And those are great actionable tips for our listeners. And
I appreciate you.
I'm looking forward to talking to you again.
Anytime, brother, anytime. If anyone wants to follow me at Instagram, I'm at Greg Inspires. So I'm trying to build up my Instagram account, Twitter. I don't use Twitter that much, but Greg Inspires also, and LinkedIn, just at Greg Walker.
Absolutely. And I'll have those links below, and looking forward to anything you do, from here on out.
Well, brother, I appreciate you. I really do. And thank you for giving me time. And I'm sorry I ran over.